optimism and resilience, both in leaders but also in organizations. In fact, the World Economic Forum also recently published the Future of Jobs report. And as a part of that report, they published what are the critical skill sets that will be required. And they published it for every nation. And when we looked at, the emerging skills for India, uh, there were 15 skills that came out. These 15 skills are in no particular order. And out of this 15 skills, two of the skill sets, which have been highlighted in orange over here, were directly related to the leader's ability to manage stress, resilience, how are they able to manage their own emotions. And in fact, at the end of the day, if you all, look at it, a leader's mood has an enormous impact on, the team they lead. Uh, their emotions are contagious. And in fact, the emotions that the leaders have are far more contagious than the COVID, because emotions spread faster. And therefore, the type of environment we are able to create at work and at home has a major impact on the outputs that can be expected. Now, keeping this in mind, we believe that now we've reached a stage where organizations in India have to think about uh, psychological capital as a source of competitive advantage. And what I'm really trying to therefore talk about is that traditionally, organizations used to have three types of capital, which were their sources of competitive advantage. One was the economic capital, which is the finances, the tangible assets, the technology of the organization. Then there is the human capital, which has always been very, very critical. The social capital was the third critical capital around the relationships that the organization has, the network, the allies, and the partners. But now we believe that the fourth capital that organizations will need to build deeper is the psychological capital, where organizations and its leaders are so mentally tough that they are able to take care of any kind of issues that come in. And in our mind, this psychological capital depends on four attributes, what we call as hero, which is hope, high levels of hope and positive vision of future within the organization. Energy, organizations can have positive energy or negative energy. So having that high positive energy. Resilience, the ability of not just individuals, but the organizations to bounce back from setbacks that are bound to happen. And obviously optimism, to have that positive mindset that we can do it together. And therefore, we thought that this subject was crucial enough to have a conversation around this, concept of psychological capital. When we started conceptualizing this, we're looking for role models who already have great psychological capital themselves and have built it in their respective organizations. And none other than the four people in the panel today here with me came into our mind because they, for us, has been those role models. So let's start the panel conversation, and I'll now stop sharing slides so that we can all see each other in a better manner. And I like to start by an opening question to all the panelists. And the first question that I like to ask all the panelists is, as I shared earlier, the hero competencies are critical to build that psychological capital. Can you share with us one action that you've taken in the last 1 year to build that psychological capital in your own respective organizations? So, Shenu, if I can request you to kick us off, and then I'll come to the others. Sorry, Shenu, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you, Sumit.
Sure.
You can hear me now? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Sumit, I think a lot of this depends on the context. And I think often it is not just one big move, but it is a series of continuous actions to first build hope and energy and then sustain it. I think the starting point, at least from my experience, is that the leadership has to have an immense belief that even people with average capabilities, when aligned and connected for a common goal, can really do wonders. A few years ago, I got into a leadership role when my company was actually just coming out of a very bad, prolonged business cycle. So there was really nothing to beat the drums around. So no big profits, no big cash, weak processes, absence of talent and skills. And we realized that building all this would be a journey and would take time. So what we did was that every day before heading home in the evening, a small group of people would just come together gauge the pulse of the organization, and see how we can lift the energy and how we can keep it there continuously. Because we had no other starting point. I mean, this we thought is, I mean, first we have to build some hope and confidence in the organization before we start building other things. So one day the group said that leadership team needs to demonstrate uh, that they mean the change. So we said, okay, let's set us a hugely stretched goal for ourselves and declare it to the world and make it so big that even if people laugh about it, let let it be. So we did that. One day the team said, why can't we have 4 closings in a month, right? Instead of just one closing. So instead of chasing a 10,000 number in a month, can we chase 2,500 a week?
Mm.
Right? We did that. And we now in Escorts we have 4 closings in a month. Everybody is aligned kind of to that system. Uh, One day our small group said that if we truly believe in the power of the human being, let us give them a platform to demonstrate that power. So we decided to kind of launch a magic day program, and we said, okay, we'll assign a day to each individual in the team, and let he or she create some kind of a magic in a personal or a professional context. And so people would like every day post a video of what they want to do, and end of the day they would say, this is the magic I created on a WhatsApp group. One day the team said that why not we have few days when everybody in the organization is out in the field, everybody from peon to like production people to everyone. And we said that way we can create a great connect with the market, great connect with our customers. So we started celebrating a lights off day. So we'll just pick one work day randomly, announce it a few days in advance and say this is a lights off day. Nobody would be in office, nobody would be in the factory. Everybody would go out and meet customers and help sales or do whatever. One day the team said probably we are slogging too much, right? And therefore people are missing their families, they are not able to relax, etc. So we started doing a complete rest day. Uh, so what I mean to say is probably, especially in the crisis situations, it is not just one big move, but you have to continuously take a series of actions. And
Absolutely.
with my experience, I can say that over a period of time, these get institutionalized into the culture of the organization. And once it happens, then you really create that energy and hope and optimism in the organization.
Wonderful. That's so inspirational, Shenu. Thank you so much for that. And I love the point you mentioned, which is first build hope and belief, and then the rest of the actions will follow. Rajesh, what would you like to add to that?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Sumit. And I think the whole idea of psychological capital is a very, very interesting concept with these 4 elements of hope, energy, resilience, and optimism. Nice way to sort of structure the whole thing. And I quite agree with what Shenu said in terms of, when you say what is that one action that you took, rarely is it one action. It's always a series of, actions that you take. And I think one of the most important factors is you being consistent in your actions. As a leader, as a management team, unless you're consistent in your actions, it doesn't then become a behavior, and then it doesn't percolate down the system the way it needs to, so that it becomes a integral part of the DNA. So I think that's very critical. And of course, it starts with hope and optimism, which results in positive energy, which then reinforces in terms of resilience, and then that becomes a virtuous cycle, right? So I think that's the way it works. To me, these things are very, very important, COVID or no COVID, right? At any point of time, they are very relevant. So, I mean, the only thing is that the last year, 2020, because of the situation which was very unique to everybody, it probably accentuated and heightened some of these things, right? So, if again, if you said, let's pick one, I think one of the most important things which drives all of this, in my opinion, is how can we have open and proactive communication? Yeah, because everything starts from there. So the two operative words there being open. So there is a very transparent kind of communication, and proactive. So you're taking the first step to communicate, as opposed to people saying, "Oh, what's going on?" And if I were to just use the backdrop of the COVID situation to sort of highlight that point, I think, when the lockdown got announced towards the third week of March, and usually our increment cycle is from the 1st of April, right? So that's when we dole out our increments, the incentives and so on and so forth. And one of the first things that we did was we announced proactively to the organization that there is no layoffs. All increments were paid on the 1st of April. All incentives were given out. And we made sure that the safety, which is also inclusive of economic safety and well-being of people, were taken care. I mean, economic and physical, right? So that itself actually set the tone and the context. It's a little bit like a Maslow's hierarchy, where if the base is taken care, then the rest of it can, sort of be built on top of that, right? So once people saw all of that, I think that gave everybody a lot of hope and optimism in terms of, yeah, things are bad, things are uncertain, but they are not that bad. And I'm sure we will find ways of tiding over it, right? So I think that was the most important step. And then after that, for example, we have staff of about 800 people. Now, one of the things I used to do as a practice is one-to-one conversations with people, 2 people a week, 15 minutes, just to check on how people are and what's going on, etc. But in the COVID situation, it was, okay, I needed to meet every single person in the organization in an accelerated manner. Exactly. So picked 10 per day and had small roundtable conversations with 10 people randomly picked across the organization. So in about 80 days, I managed to cover all the employees of the organization, just to check on them, how they are doing, how is their family, is everything okay, how are they feeling about it, and so on and so forth, right? Because everybody was going through the same set of situation. So I think having those conversations, having those open, proactive conversations, taking care of some of the basic hygiene factors, I think significantly helps in building on your hero structure. Absolutely. And I would say that's probably one way to get this whole thing started off, to build strong psychological capital in the organization.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And I love the this thing about taking 10 people a day. It's a high touch and a committed approach. Thank you, Rajesh. Randeep, what would you like to add from your perspective?
So, good evening, everyone. So I'll share you a very different perspective. On 22nd March, when the lockdown happened, and all of us were in our house in a lockdown and you can't go out, and it was very uncertain. We didn't know what exactly COVID is and how it can impact and how is it contagious. I mean, nobody knows to that extent that the telecom service operator people, especially belonging to my team, which is the network people, had to go out the second or the third day after this lockdown, because they had to keep the services on. I mean, while we call essential services about water supply, but telecom became the most essential service during that time. And those guys had to go out because there could be a site with maybe a power problem or a card failure, or a broadband connection of somebody could have gone down. And those guys at that stage had to step out where everybody was so afraid and unsure that they didn't even want to step out in their balcony thinking that coronavirus will catch them there. No, it is not funny. I mean, I must give it out those brave soldiers who, absolutely, knowing all this, went out, and they had no choice. I mean, the customer was saying, I needed, all of us were in our home, we needed a broadband because we needed to connect our offices. I'm sure when Rajesh was connecting to his employees, he was connecting over a broadband connection, and his employees could be on a 4G or a broadband connection itself. The information source, everything what we needed that time was coming from there. The industries which are running off, which means they needed their factories and other things, not factories maybe, but the offices to be connected. They had to be connected. So these unsung soldiers had to step out. We all clap for medical workers, I do too, and security workers, but these guys were there. I can tell you, my people wearing PP kits were going into people's houses because they wanted their broadband connected, but didn't see an image of a physical person coming in. And neither they were capable of a remote handling. Please tell us this light, can you tell me this light? And subsequently, we developed tools where we can let a person self-help. So then, with so many people going out pan-India serving, how do we keep them motivated and give them the purpose?
Absolutely.
So it was when we started connecting with them in these town halls, open houses, much more. And thanks to this technology, which was there, but we did not discover that we were using these Zoom sessions or Blue Jean sessions or whatever team session, and connecting at one moment of time 7,000, 8,000 people who could connect. So what we did is we gave them the sense of purpose that what you are doing is no less than a medical worker. You are helping people connect, because if somebody needs a medical help, let's say he's not having a coronavirus issue, but having some other issue, but he
Absolutely.
needs to consult his doctor. That is as urgent as anybody else. So the purpose that what you're doing by going out and risking your life, while we all pack that you have to wear masks, you have to have your gloves on, and if you are in a not a great environment, probably a PP kit, but giving them sense of purpose, then applauding those guys publicly is the real, I would say the real sense which this guy got elated that I am really doing into national job. We gave them this purpose that's a national job, because by you doing this, you are keeping nation connected. Governments were running these COVID operations from their admin blocks, but them to speak to everybody in the field, this was the communication, was the bloodline of everything.
Absolutely.
I think doing this and making them feel positive, then appreciating them, and in public showing some pictures of people in very adverse conditions doing this job, then everybody knew that I'm taking a risk, but I'm taking a risk for a bigger purpose, not for my job.
Absolutely.
And in some way, in India's fight to COVID, I'm contributing. I think this is where we could actually make them feel pride of their job, rather than actually making them feel, oh, my job is so tough, so I am the one who has to step out of my house while others can rest in their this thing. And at some stage, the leaders started going out so that it is not just for the field staff, but for everybody. I would say this particular thing has spiraled into people having a bigger sense of purpose of their job during this time. Then I think it would have been very stressful otherwise if they didn't feel this purpose to give them motivation to go out in a risky environment and do something. We had to go to hospitals, because hospitals, doctor had to be connected, and who wanted to go to hospital that day if you were healthy, because you don't want to catch any infection. So I think that's what I would like to share here today.
Wonderful. Randeep, thank you so much. And I think research has very clearly pointed out a high correlation between purpose and the hero, capabilities. I think you brought it out so well. Thank you for that. Sharmishta, what would you like to add in this area?
Yeah, I thought they were like fascinating, what Shenu shared and what Rajesh and what Randeep shared. I think we possibly did a combination, had to, because we're such a large employer of 75, 80,000 people. Three things that come to my mind, which I may like to share. One is we were also being banking, it was an essential service.
Exactly.
And we have 5,000 branches, and people had to reach out to the branches, the foot soldiers. So, and we realized at a point in time, there was a huge amount of stress which was sort of building up. So one thing we started doing is we said 1 hour every day is a shutdown time. Everyone would just have to shut down for an hour every day, because the pressure was huge across the country. The second thing that we started doing is maybe not as well as Rajesh would have done, but we also intensified our reach out efforts, especially, large number of people were also getting COVID affected. So we really formulated a reach out plan and to reach out to them almost once in 2 to 3 days, give them the medical facilities, because people are always out in the field. And we also lost 1 or 2 people. So for us, we had to really do a proper reach out cadence once in 3 days. I had COVID myself. I got calls from my office, and it just felt so beautiful. So that was one thing I think we managed very well. The third thing that we did actually is, we have opened up as one of the first large employers who have opened up a very different ways of working. Because what we realized is people wanted to work from different parts of the country. So we leveraged this learning. We have now institutionalized a process called Gig Hour. Which is, we are really experimenting. We've got 50,000 applications for 50 positions of Gig Hour, where we identified, 50 roles and maybe 150 people. But now we are actually seeing the success of that, because we realize people are working from hometowns, right? People are going back, leaving their homes. So we are now 20% of the bank in the next year is going to be completely virtual workforce. Wow. And a lot of millennials are very, very happy to take that up. So I thought that was a big learning for us, which was waiting to be sort of unleashed. The final thing that we did, we identified certain cohorts. We have had, because the business pressures were also huge, like Rajesh talked about, our MD also went and said, no one's going to lose a job. They did tremendous stuff to keep the bank secure, but it also meant there was business pressure. So there are cohorts in the organization. We identified 5 or 6, especially sales cohorts, frontline cohorts, and their supervisory layers. We introduced a program called Stay Positive. And that Stay Positive focus for us really was to help them first create a winning mindset. And also, we introduced well-being, mindfulness to this cohorts of about 5,000-6,000 people. Now maybe about 12,000, 20,000 have gone through it. Now that gave us a huge differentiator as an organization, saying we care. And when we helped people to calm down like that, I think the way they supported their front lines was amazing. And anyone new now joins the bank, it's a flagship program. They love it when I go and take feedback. We love the Stay Positive session of 45 minutes we do. So that's how, we did a few things.
Thanks, Shamishta. And I can understand, for a giant like Axis to take such action so swiftly would have, taken so many, actions parallelly. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to now, Shenu, to you and Randeep, ask a quick follow-up question, which is a little bit more personal, and that is, you would have also, as leaders, faced certain level of disappointment yourself, and stress. So how did you keep yourself motivated, during this particular time? So we can start from anywhere. Shenu, if you want to start, or Randeep, you, either which ways.
Okay, so I'll go first. Uh, so yeah, so I would still answer this in a more of organizational context, and like Rajesh said and Randeep said. Uh, so when the lockdown happened, we have about like 7,000-8,000 people in the organization, and everybody was sitting home. The factories were closed, the dealerships were closed, so no action, nothing. So for the first few days, we were like in the dark and we didn't know what to do. And then slowly, ideas started coming in, right? So we said, like, one thing we did, which immensely was very, very positive, was that we said, okay, we can't do anything. We can't sell tractors. We can't make tractors. We can't have our design centers running. So what do we do to engage and keep all the employees still connected in some manner? And we said, okay, we have these 15 lakh, 18 lakh farmers to who we have sold tractors in the past, right? I mean, why don't we create a mechanism where all our employees are given a list of 100 each farmers, or 500 each, and everybody talks to at least 5 farmers a day. Now, Sumit, it seems mundane, huh? But you think about these guys in R&D, these engineers, young engineers in R&D, or the production guys in the assembly line,
Absolutely.
or other people in the organization who have never faced a customer, never faced a farmer. Huh? And for the first couple of days, 3 days, we thought that these people may not be able to do that. But the kind of excitement and positivity this created in the organization was immense.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think, of course, there were some disappointments. There was a lot of uncertainty. But as leadership, as leaders, as organizations, we have always to find out ways to just engage people, connect them with a common goal, with a meaningful objective. Yeah, so this was just one example I wanted to share.
Wonderful. No, and I think before I come to Randeep, I'll just like to talk about this point a little bit, because Escorts has always had this, great customer connect, which is the farmer connect, where leaders are, asked to go and deliver tractors. I had the opportunity once of delivering a tractor in Rohtak, for Escorts, and it was a fascinating experience. That building that one-to-one connection is so powerful, as an experience. Thank you, Shenu. Randeep, you were in the heart of it, as you said earlier. The network organization, you're leading it. If you could tell us a little bit about how did you manage?
I think only thing is we were not disappointed. There was no time for disappointment, honestly. We have to find out a lot of things which we took for granted were taken away from us. For example, we have a network operation center where 1,500 operators sit and watch the network all the time. Then we have to move them to their house and mimic the same system in their house. Most of them did not have laptops because they are very young engineers. They may have a desktop or may not have anything. Then getting these machines to them and making it like solving that problem. Then we had call centers off, but customers had problem. How do they reach us, right? Not everybody is a digital savvy to use a Airtel Thanks app and put a complaint there. They are calling our call center, but call centers are off because the employees of call centers are in their home, and they haven't yet directed their calls to people to take calls from their phones. So I would say not disappointment, but I think this gave us opportunity to be innovative, much more innovative than we would have been. I would say much more brave than we would have been. We would have never thought you can do that and you can have meetings like in a virtual environment. We always think that meeting has to be in a personal environment. And to Sharmista's point, people working out of their villages or something, and it gave them extra energy because they spent time with their family, which they would have never thought. Nobody could have spent time with their parents in more than 5-10 days, and now here they are spending 6 months. After 6 months they wanted to come back, of course. So I think finding new and new ways of giving our customers the service they needed under the limitations we had, I think that was great. And then sometimes we felt we are not this thing. Then when we opened the call center and all, then we started, we already have this program of people listening to calls. So we can just listen to calls. Then we made sure everybody listened to at least 5 calls, because sometimes during this whole system, maybe we are missing out something and where we can't. I can tell you the amount of innovation and digitization which has happened in this 9 months. It hasn't happened in any organization in any part of the world.
Exactly.
They say who has done more digitization, chief digital officer or IT officer? They know COVID has done the most digitization. And I find that it has made us more agile. It has made us more free. Otherwise, you could have never thought of, I have to rush for this meeting. Now you can say, I'll take it offline. And you can have a mixture of, like we have been in our offices now for 6 months as the whole company. Our field staff was on after the 3rd day. So I find there are many new ways to do things. Yes, you have to stay safe. There were so many things, but I feel that what we have discovered, new ways, it is fantastic. We never used to go to somebody to celebrate his birthday. Now these virtual birthdays are possible. So I would say many new things. So we should look at positives which it gave us, other than, of course, the virus and the impact it had on humanity.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, again, connecting back to the customer and is a great strategy, because it helps us to give us that purpose of driving that hope and optimism. Rajesh and Sharmista, coming to you now. I had earlier spoken about this entire concept of energy, and we are all experienced enough to know that organizations can have high energy or low energy, and that high or low energy can be either positive or negative. It's a challenge for any organization and the leader to build a high energy and a high positive energy organization. So I think, Rajesh, to start with you, what are some of the actions that you have done? And now my question is not related to COVID. I think it's much more beyond that, to say, what are some of the actions that you've done to build that energy within Perfetti? Because when we interact with people at Perfetti, we can feel it. Even virtually, we are able to feel it. So what is the secret sauce?
Yeah, and I think it's a fair question, Sumit. You mentioned about emotion being infectious. I think energy actually is also infectious, right? So one of the most important things is, as a leader for all of us, is we need to demonstrate that high level of energy. Now, if we don't demonstrate it, it then doesn't become infectious and flow through. So I think that's a very, very important thing to keep in mind. And no matter what state of mind you might be in with your own set of challenges, etc., I think it's very important to demonstrate that high level of energy going forward. For me, I think also that's point number one. I think point number two is a little bit of how you look at things sort of then flows from you to what you do at work as well, right? Absolutely. So to me, for example, I'm a very firm believer of work-life integration, right? And when I say work-life integration, there are 4 parts to it. I think one is the work, Second is well-being, which is physical, mental, emotional well-being. Third is giving back. Yeah. And the fourth is really about home and family, right? So, these are the four parts, and they're all obviously, interconnected with each other. So the way or I try to put positive energy in the organization is, when it comes to work, it's always about, do we have a growth mindset? Are we willing to punch above our weight and try to do something which is not expected of us, right? And unless you aspire for that slightly higher order stuff, you won't even get to where you need to get. So I think, are we doing that? And in that process, are we building the right capability, right talent, right structure, etc.? So all those things that people like Sharmishta would talk about, in terms of making sure that the organization is well resourced for that. But really, are we driving that energy in the work space? So that's one part of it, right?
Absolutely.
The second part, when it comes to well-being, is, are we able to provide the right kind of engagement within the organization? So for example, we since we sell a lot of chewing gum and candies, and we are a fun company, we have something called Bureau of Serious Fun.
Okay.
Which is a bunch of people put together whose job is, apart from their day job, is also to make sure that everybody in the organization has fun. So they create these various programs around, health and wellness, birthday celebrations, etc., which are, again, a lot of organizations do it, but do it in a very concerted manner, so that that keeps the well-being of people, right? So a high level of engagement which is there. The third part I spoke about was giving back. So, one of the things that we encourage in our organization is, of course, we have our own set of CSR programs, but we really encourage a huge amount of participation in that, so that, employees and all of us feel connected and feel, satisfied that we are able to give back in some form or the other. I mean, it could be as simple as going and teaching in a school next to our factory, or it could be about being part of a rack picking drive to ensure that we don't put plastic out in the streets. So some form of giving back is another source of energy and gratification. And the last one, which I spoke about, is home, right? Home and family. So even in some of the engagement programs and the other initiatives that we do, how can we actually get the family together as well? And more so in today's context, where like Randeep spoke about it, everything is virtual. It's so easy because people are sitting at home. It's so easy to get the son or the daughter or the spouse to come on camera, maybe sing a song, do a dance or whatever. And I think that sort of builds on the energy as well, because I mean, as Indians, we are all, very, very close to families and all the connect that comes with it. So I think, to me, if we are able to sort of seamlessly do the work-life integration, as I call it, with these four factors or four aspects to it, I think that just fuels a nice momentum of positive energy for myself, for sure, and it then sort of flows in the organization as well.
Thanks, Rajesh. And I think before I come to Sharmishta, one thing I like to add up, which I don't think I've, ever mentioned to you. But I think what I've learned from you is also the role of leader as a teacher. In several of the sessions that we've done in the past, you've always been around for the entire session. You've actively conducted sessions. And I think that also, contributes hugely to the organization energy and that role model behavior. So I think I was inspired the first time, when we did it together. And since then, have continued to be inspired in that area.
Thanks.
Sharmishta, what would you like to add?
I think Rajesh has mostly covered, all the points. I actually want to ask you, when you told Rajesh that when I go to Perfectly, I feel the energy. I want to ask, do you still feel the same in Axis as well? That was the first question that came to my mind. Yeah. So you can choose to respond to that, Sumit, separately as well.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
We feel
yeah,
the same energy at Axis. I think
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
pace at which Axis is moving is amazing.
Yeah. So I think, for us, what has happened is, and I think similar 4 points and the way it gets manifested. So for us, what we realized is, uh, there is, as an organization, our DNA is sort of dil se open, right? And we all know, those who have managed change, they've been, business, HR, and all kind of roles. We know leveraging the DNA is the most powerful way to, and I think when Shinu was talking, he also talked about that as well, and so has Randeep and Rajesh. So the first thing that we did as an organization, if we saw our advertisement, our marketing, our branding, the way it changed, right? So earlier, I loved Deepika and that ad of, Axis credit cards. But then we said, no, it is all about our own people with the new, managing director also coming in. So there we said our own people, but talk about what? So then the whole Dil Se Open campaign, and the way we connected our DNA to the customers and back to our employees. I thought that gave us a huge amount of momentum and energy and unleash in the organization. You're really putting your DNA out, and you're putting it out because you have done it and see it for yourself. Otherwise, many a times we have forgotten. Now, this I thought was a very smart move because this was also simultaneously happening at a time when we wanted people to also behave out of character.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because while we have an aspiration now to be one of the number one or the most coveted private sector bank, which meant what we don't have, and I'm just sharing it, a process excellence is an area we can work a lot more, right? So there was a lot of push while it was happening for that. We had to really balance it with this. And that sort of suddenly unleashed a lot of energy to start getting up and driving. And as Randeep said, we saw a lot of changes in terms of innovation, etc., coming in. So those were two things. A third area for us, we really leveraged two things, third or fourth. The leadership connect, everyone talked about it, so which led to the well-being, the connect with the family. I'm not going to repeat. Rajesh talked about, again, every leader in their own corners started innovating. It was not necessarily an organization drive. Everyone started innovating their own way. The fourth thing that I saw, there was a lot of, it is like back and forth happening on leading from the front and shepherding, almost like simultaneously. If you're doing something new, then you went ahead and led from the front, like leader as a teacher, right?
Wonderful.
Almost all leaders took on that role. And the moment that happened to transfer the accountability, you played the role of a shepherd. And as a result, a lot of development happened on the ground and on an everyday basis. And we started investing significantly on development, but more on perspective building, more on getting worldview, because the world is changing, and more on self-reflection and more on self-reflection. So these were, some of the four things I thought that worked beautifully for us as an organization. And for the first time, we did our value survey after 2 years in the mid of COVID, etc. Our pride and advocacy was around, I think, 72, 73% 2 years back. It's hit almost 90% now when we did it during the COVID. So, yeah.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Thank you so much, Shamita. What I like to do, everyone, is instead of going to the fourth question, I'll perhaps like to see if the audience has any questions. I think there are more than around 100 of us who are going through this session right now. In case you have any questions, what you can do is you can put it on the chat screen, and I can read it out, for the panelists. So let's just see if there are any questions that anyone has. I think one of the questions, I think Rajesh, you've already answered. Thank you so much for that. But in case there are any questions, feel free to put it on the chat screen. While I think the audience, is putting down their question, let me actually come to the last question that I had in mind for the panelists, which is, when we speak about psychological capital, is this an individual responsibility, or is this a organizational responsibility? I know that the answer is in many ways both, but where is it more towards? Is it more towards the individual, or is it more towards the organization? So perhaps, Rajesh, if I can request you to share your perspectives first to this question.
Yeah, I think Sumit, you answered it in a way. But again, I mean, what is an organization? An organization is all the individuals together, right? So I think definitely the responsibility is largely with the individuals, each individual, right? I think if we don't percolate and sort of permeate hope and energy and optimism in the organization, it can never catch on and become infectious and then spread across the organization. So in that sense, definitely everybody's got a responsibility towards that. I think what in addition the leaders need to do is to probably facilitate and enable an environment which can make this far more viable and sustainable. Yeah, I mean, if every individual in the organization had, optimism and they were fueling, positive energy, etc., but really the top management was not being very conducive towards that, then obviously the chances of that working dramatically go down. But for sure, I think it's everybody's responsibility, but certainly can be fueled by senior leaders in the organization as well.
Got it. Thank you so much. Shenu, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I agree with what Rajesh said. I think it always starts from the top because it is something that energy always, I think, percolates down and then it rebounds back also in a lot of ways, but it has to start from the top. I think also context also decides, whether the individual or the organization takes a leading role here. I have seen both phases of business, very bad and very good now in our company. And I think when you are in a crisis, it is more towards individual, a few leaders who have to take on this baton and create the right environment, the right energy. And I think when you are more stable, more mature, more on a stable growth path, then it has to be structured in an organizational context in many ways, right? So, yeah, that would be my take.
Wonderful. Randeep, if I can add to this question for you, there's an audience question that has come in which is similar to this. So perhaps let me, build up on that particular question, and if you could answer. This question is from Vineet. Vineet is one of the senior leaders at Colt. He's himself a very inspirational leader. So he's written, I was meaning to understand, how do we make sure people reflect enough and become more open and willing for their personal transformation? So could you take this on?
I can tell you, I give you example of what we have done here in Airtel. So we have very small groups which we make. One is the leadership group, then let's say my team group. We had one session where everybody opened up and they laid bare their vulnerabilities. They laid bare the human inside them, and the questions were very open on, where it created with the first guy opening up so much vulnerable that the other people also ended up opening up their own vulnerabilities and sharing probably some events in their life which are changing events, something. In one way, you show your vulnerability to the group. That means I'm not having a steel wall with me, so I am what you see. That changed that particular, we did it across many groups, our CEO's group and then my group and then other groups. We find that changed a lot. And where in sense that we could now see a human in front of us instead of a colleague or a peer. And we could relate to what their like subtle things in life which trigger them, what they like it, or certain things like, what do you know? Like somebody said, I sing, but in your life, you will never have that opportunity. So I think seeing a human in your peer changed a lot, in which when we get to, let's say, solve a problem together, we are more, you can say, more human in giving our feedback. So I would say when you are together, that makes a lot of difference. I will still like to add to the previous question that, psychological capital responsibility is two. First is your own, for you as an individual, not as an employee.
Absolutely.
Because if you are not in the right frame of mind, let's take about Indian cricket team. A bowler is coming to ball. He's a fast bowler. He knows, but his own frame of mind is his own responsibility. How does he fight his demons? Maybe in the previous match, he was really battered and he is afraid to bowl to this particular batsman. I think that is his own, which he has to center himself and say, this is a new match, new day. I will give my best. But as a team, when you come together and you say, okay, this team is probably much stronger than us, but we will give our best. This is where probably the leader comes in, where he pushes his energy to everybody and saying, if the leader is ready to give it, we are all ready to give 120%. So I would say in an individual capacity and in the team capacity, when it comes to team, then energy comes from leader. You said it in your slide point, because then they say if leader is ready to take it, he's ready to take the risk. I am ready to take more. Exactly. Second is when it comes to individual performance, you have to center yourself. You have to really do it yourself. So this is what I would like to add to that part.
Wonderful. And I think I'll just like to add one point before I go to Sharmishta. I think that point that you said around showing your vulnerability as a leader, that's such a powerful point. The panel may already know, but also for the audience, there is a book titled "The Hard Things of the Hard Things." If you've not read that book, I would highly recommend it. Meant for any leader. And what that book, one of the things that the book talks about is that moment as a leader, I share my vulnerability with my team. I earn their trust. It's a fabulously well written book, more for entrepreneurs, but I think it's as equally critical for business leaders as well. uh, Sharmishta, two questions for you. One is a follow up to the psychological capital, wanted to get your views, and then Joita wants to understand a little bit about the value survey as well, so perhaps you can answer that too.
Yeah. So just I think the points were again beautifully covered by Rajesh, Shenu, and Randeep. The only thing that I have started, and I completely agree with them, right? All of us are as if growing in that space every day of seeing the power of our own energy translating to our team, and very hard tasks are getting also accomplished because everyone's energy is coming through. Even I hear people saying, "Oh, we have changed over a period of the last 7 months." They feel so, so indebted to the leaders who have helped them traverse this journey. So I think that's beautiful. So I think that's got covered. So as a result of this learning, what we have realized it's important to do is to consciously actually feel the energy of people. I consciously now do that. And whenever I feel in a group team meeting or the tone or the voice, there is a slight drop of energy, I immediately try and figure out and find out, not directly, but just converse, and it comes out. So I'll go and ask his or her team member, how is he or she feeling? Inevitably would know there is something which is, and it is then important to sort of quickly plug that. So I think leaders have to become very conscious of this very powerful thing that you're talking about, which is energy. G talked about it, right? Energy, energize, execute. Some fundamentals don't go out of fashion. I read about it many years back, living it. So we have to become very conscious that consciously we have to see, is the energy in place or not, or is it dropping somewhere? So, because you may still have your energy, but someone may have something which needs attention. So that's one. Coming to the value survey, uh, Shindu, who asked the question? Sorry, who asked the question, Sumit? What's the name?
Joita had asked.
Sorry. Joita, yeah, so what we have done is we, of course, have, like most organizations, got the values defined. But our MD is very clear, forget about competency framework, forget about everything else. Value is really going to be the binding force for us, in this whole world of adaptability, change, and constantly shaping the future. So we have defined our 5 values just before COVID, just a matter of chance. We redefined the behaviors of those. And the way we defined it is very beautiful. It was not done by HR people. 60 of our senior management people came together and developed it at a step-by-step level basis. And finally, we had had a meeting in Jaipur that time. There was no COVID. So 60 of us sort of signed off and participated in creating the behaviors under the values. The values were there for the last, like, 20 years. So we didn't change the nomenclature. But then, we are now active with it. I wouldn't call it aggressive. We are active with it. So we have done the surveys. We are now, we also have access value realizers. So we have got, out of 75,000 people, 1,000 people identified across the organization who do these value sessions with the people, like the survey results. So we did the survey. The survey results came out. The access value realizers went and communicated. There was a deck which was created, which helped us to reflect. We got the answers. Where is it that we need to focus on? So it's a very serious element. And then the MD has taken certain things. He also, along with the values, very smartly did another thing parallelly, which we call internal satisfaction survey. So we have 45 departments, but every department has to take a survey from 5 more departments. And the ISAT survey also happened. So on the values as well as the actions. So we have combined the two, and now we are coming up with very focused actions, which is being understood what needs to be done, which is also going to be reviewed, measured, so that we move forward on the very important soft side of the organization, which is the values as well as internal satisfaction of the departments. So that's the way we are dealing with it.
Great, Shamishta. Thank you so much. I think two key learnings from there. One is, the need to measure organization energy and not just normal employee engagement.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
the second is how values can be a great lever of doing that.
Yeah, yeah.
We have only 3 minutes left, so I'm sorry we can't go to everyone's question. We'll take one more question, which is from Wing Commander Baljit Aluwalia. I'll read the question, and then if I can request any of the panelists to answer it. The question is that the pandemic has totally changed the concept of working. The success of the work from home concept has convinced the corporates that even after normalcy is restored, the concept is here to stay. A lot of corporates continue with this practice. My question is that this does not augur well for a young executive who's on the threshold of the career. No coffee breaks, no corridor graphine, no face-to-face meetings, no town halls, no boss subordinate one-to-ones. So, what is your view, in this area? So, if I can request any one of us to answer this question, please.
I can only say here is that it will become flexi working. It will not be all work from home. No job can be. At least we are realizing as a company that if the employee has not been coming to office, the productivity which actually went up and we were all gung-ho about it, is started falling. And we are now actually, for certain meetings, we say it has to be face-to-face. We sit with social distancing. And if there are more people, we wear masks. But we feel that everything cannot be done remotely. And more so, errors start happening, especially the people who are like, let's say, the back office staff and all, because there is no supervisor to check. The atmosphere is different. And mental things start coming in because there is always a positive thing you get with your colleagues' banter. So I believe that 100% work from home may not happen. Flexi working may happen where some companies realize that they don't need to have such big offices for all the time. They can have flexi sitting and flexi working. An employee can choose to come maybe 4 days a week or 3 days a week, depends upon the organization. And some organization may like to have all the 5 days. Some may say, okay, 2 days or 3 days a week will also happen. But 100% some job can be done in the same efficiency. At least, Randeep, as of my view, I don't think it can be. It has to have a physical element to it. After all, we are social animals. We need that physicality to get started. So my take is it cannot be 100% work from home. It can be flexi to some extent.
Thanks, Randeep. Rajesh, you were also saying something?
No, I was pretty much echoing what Randeep said. I said, I also believe it will eventually be a bit of a hybrid model, right? Where a couple of days we come to office and work. Like, for example, I come 5 days a week, but, for example, many people in the organization walk in for a day or two here and there. Some critical meetings, some critical functions, some of the work needs a physicality, physical presence for it to happen. And there are many cases where you can still manage with, not being physically present in the office. So I think it'll be a bit of a mix because, one extreme or the other obviously doesn't work.
Great. I know we are out of time, but one last question to everyone. And I just need one sentence, from everyone, which is your one operating principle on leading with optimism. It may be a quote, it may be one last advice to the group before you all sign off. So Shenu, your operating principle.
I think my operating principle is just connect more and more.
Thank you, Shenu. Shamishta?
My operating principle is actually, keep yourself energized and energize others constantly.
Thank you. Rajesh?
Have a growth mindset. How can you do it versus can you do it?
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you. And Randeep?
Me, stay positive.
Great. Wonderful. Thanks so much, all of you. Thanks to all the panelists for today's session. I think it was a brilliant talk. We will put together a white paper basis all of your comments. I know you all have busy schedules, so thank you so much for taking out time for the day today. Thanks to all the participants for also attending the session today, and a quick round of virtual applause, for all of you.
Thank you all.
Thank you,
It was a
Sumit.
pleasure.
I thought it was I've done so many panels in the last few months, but I must admit, this is the one I enjoyed the most. And
Thank
all
you.
of them were great panelists, but I don't know what happened today. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Sumit, for
Thanks,
doing
Sumit.
it so
It was
well.
a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you.
Take care. Stay safe.
Thank